Bore da a croeso ei cynhadledd heddiw. A very warm welcome to Wales Plant Health and Horticulture Conference. I'm Kevin Thomas, National Director for Lantra, the Sector Skills Council for the land-based and environmental industries. I'm pleased that Tyfu Cymru, our horticulture project, is hosting today's conference. The conference is for commercial horticulture, and we look at the key issues around plant health. This year has been dominated by human health issue, COVID-19. It's had great repercussions on the industry. It's also social, economic and well-being effects upon the horticultural sector and the world in general. When the United Nations declared the International Year of Plant Health, they wanted all countries to be aware of the significant problems that plant health could cause. What we have learned through the COVID-19 episode is that pandemics and epidemics have considerable effect upon us all. The key messages in the International Year of Plant Health around promoting plant health, about positive environmental practice. It's about environmental safeguarding of pollinators, and it's about maintaining a safe food security system as well. Horticulture in Wales has great potential. It needs to lead, like it's done before, in sustainable development. Welsh horticulture needs to be an exemplar in biosecurity and in providing high quality plants for gardens and communities, for woodlands and the food and drink supply chain. We've got great potential here in Wales, both in the edible and the ornamental sectors. This conference has been run virtually and will give the opportunity for many across Wales, and indeed from outside of Wales, to join us today. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Professor David Skydmore to be your chair for today's proceedings. David is familiar with many of you. He's worked in the plant health and horticultural sector in Wales for many years. Can I wish you an interesting, informative and rewarding conference. Diolch yn fawr iawn am ymuno chi heddiw.
Thank you very much to Kevin Thomas, Director of Lantra, and Tyfu Cymru for his welcome. Thanks also to Tyfu Cymru in partnership with the Rural Development Programme, the Welsh Government and the Growing the Future project for putting this conference together. I'm delighted to welcome you to this conference, Plant Health in Horticulture Wales 2020. I'm going to introduce its content to you, an overview of what will be happening. I greet you today from mid-Wales and the gardens of the National Trust's Powys Castle. These are considered the finest surviving example of a 17th century terrace garden in Britain, a tribute to the skills of the gardeners here and over the generations. The wide variety of plants in the borders, the meadows and the terraces demonstrate the expertise of the horticulturists here. An amazing feature here at Powys Castle are the yew trees that you can see behind me. Some of them are over 300 years old. They're pruned into distinctive cloud-like tumps, as they're called, reaching up to 14 meters. This garden and its talented gardeners show the pinnacles that Welsh horticulture has achieved and the potential that it has to offer. So to the conference. It's Welsh horticulture's contribution to the International Year of Plant Health. This international year has been given the strapline, Protecting Plants, Protecting Life. The Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, of the United Nations estimates that up to 40% of food crops are lost to pests and diseases. Controlling plant disease through biosecurity practices and environmentally sensitive processes is far better than having to deal with full-blown plant disease epidemics. Sadly, we've become all too aware of the results of both human and plant disease epidemics this year. So the International Year is being used to raise awareness of plant disease and the roles that governments, growers, and consumers all have to play. Controlling pests and diseases can help reduce worldwide poverty and hunger, help protect the environment, and assist economic development. Every grower knows the problems caused by pests and diseases. In Wales, we're seeing epidemics in the form of ash dieback disease and Phytophthora dieback of larch. And we're aware of the threats of diseases coming into the country, perhaps most particularly Xylella. It's really important that you personally benefit from spending time being a part of this conference. So, the objective of the conference is to equip horticulture in Wales. Our industry is aiming to produce high quality, healthy plants for sale, reduce expensive waste and losses from pests and diseases, comply with biosecurity procedures and plant health legislation. This helps protect our industry and our natural habitats and landscape. Raise consumer and public awareness of plant health to help biosecurity. We want our customers to be aware of what we're doing and why we're doing it. Biosecurity is crucial to our industry. Environmental protection through sensible pest control measures is essential. So in this conference, we'll be having a series of presentations on biosecurity and legislative compliance. These are for stakeholders in Welsh horticulture and the wider commercial horticulture community. We'll also hear about the actions we can take in preparing for pests and diseases and what we can do if they arrive. So, if we think what we do to support plant health is a consequence of stages, the conference will cover these stages, and that's what I'll just outline now. The first stage is preparation, before the pest or disease is present in the country or nursery. This is when contingency plans are made and resources are put in place. At this stage, we make sure that we've collected reliable information from our national research and from our evidence data. And those will support our plans. Secondly, prevention, when we put biosecurity and hygiene measures in place on holdings and in supply chains. And it's when we have to make sure that we have legislative compliance. We need to have a good system of plant inspections, plant passporting, and phytosanitary certificates. We will all need to be really active in keeping up to date with this. There will be changes in legislation and border controls as we adapt to the post-Brexit situation. Thirdly, diagnosis, when we see a problem arising. Without being able to identify the cause of the problem accurately, we can't control it efficiently or correctly. Fourthly, control itself, when we seek to use environmentally sensitive and consumer sensitive measures to reduce the spread of the disease. And in this stage, the spread of the disease between infected sites must be tracked. Measures can then be used which control the build-up of epidemics. And lastly, mitigation, when the impact on the grower needs to be limited through making businesses resilient. And we need to ensure as far as possible that the social, economic, and environmental impacts on the country as a whole are minimised. When Tyfu Cymru started arranging this conference, it was intended that we would all meet for 2 days at the Royal Welsh Showground. However, under the current circumstances, the decision was taken that the conference will be virtual. Actually, this gives us a lot of new opportunities. More people will be able to participate and listen to the talks. The conference will be spread over 2 weeks, with something happening nearly every weekday. We will be using a variety of time slots so that there will be a time to suit you. And even if you can't make one of those times, All the recorded sections will be available to watch when you want. We'll have film presentations made at a variety of locations, and we'll have guided virtual tours enabling you to see around a facility. So, more types of events and at more locations than we would otherwise have been able to offer. But it won't all be presentations. There'll also be Q&A sessions where you can put questions to the presenters. And there'll be a chat facility, a forum if you like, where you as participants can network throughout the 2 weeks and discuss your current issues in plant health. We anticipate that the conference will provide long-lasting resources. These will continue beyond the conference, providing information and networks for commercial horticulture. So, to the programme. This can be found on the conference website at the address shown on this screen. The keynote address of the conference, launched tomorrow morning, will be given by Pippa Greenwood on the challenges facing horticulture and the role of trade associations. On the next 2 days, at lunchtime, we have the treats of doing virtual tours of the famous Krieg Farm and the National Botanic Garden of Wales. The following day, we have briefings from the UK and Welsh governments on biosecurity policy and legislation. Delivering those will be Professor Nicola Spence, the Chief Plant Health Officer, and Martin Williams from Welsh Government. That will be followed by a Q&A session in which you can ask questions of the presenters via our chat function. To begin the following week, we have Alistair Yeomans from the Plant Healthy Alliance to talk about the Plant Healthy Certification Scheme and the Plant Health Management Standard, which are designed to improve plant health and plant quality in the UK. Then, over the next 3 days, we'll have themed sessions and case studies. Dr. Perez Sierra, Head of Tree Health and Diagnostic Advisory Service at Forest Research, will include a case study of the bacterial pathogen Xylella. Then we have 2 more case studies, hosted by Chris Creed and David Talbot of ADAS. One is a study on integrated pest management, and the other is on pests and diseases. We'll conclude with a conference summary. We believe that this programme has something to offer every horticultural grower in Wales. To sell high-quality plants, you need to produce healthy plants. Plant pests and diseases lead to production and sales losses. It's important to stop pests and diseases from coming into the country and into the nursery. So a central theme of the conference is biosecurity. That is, the exclusion, eradication, or effective management of risks posed by pests and diseases by using precautions and actions that prevent both the introduction and spread of harmful organisms. These precautions and actions include schemes to certify plants and planting material as healthy, including those plants for export, having border controls to inspect imported plants, using hygiene procedures on the nursery to reduce the risk of unhealthy material, surveying for pests and diseases within the country and nursery, diagnosing problems that arise, and controlling the spread of outbreaks. We've seen the impact that diseases can have on crops and forests. We might have seen it in the devastation of a crop by potato blight and post-harvest losses, or the changing of our landscapes through ash dieback disease, or maybe the loss of forests and revenue from tourism because of Phytophthora disease of larch in Wales. So we're only too well aware of the need to develop resilience through government policy and industry actions. Pathogenic fungi have a delicate relationship with their host plants. Some feed on living tissues, others on dead tissue. They may be specific to a narrow range of host plants. The relationship between host and disease may be complex, as we're seeing through the fascinating work at Bangor University on acute oak decline. This is showing that disease to be caused by the interaction of 2 bacterial species mediated by a beetle. A delicate balance exists within a natural ecosystem. The host can evolve to become resistant, but then the pathogen changes to become virulent again, a step-for-step process. Pathogens are an important control in the growth of natural plant populations. The wonderful Welsh rust fungi project that's resulted in the Rust Fungi Red Data List and Census Catalogue for Wales. That project shows the rarity of some native pathogen species. There's a need to conserve them. They're an important part of ecosystem. It's not all about control. But sometimes that delicate balance is disrupted. The pests or pathogens multiply so quickly that they can become a threat and then a problem to crops and ecosystems and need to be managed. This occurs, the disruption of the balance, when there are monocultures of plants which are uniform in their susceptibility. This often happens in crop planting. It may be when pests and pathogens arrive from other regions and the resistance is low in the local natural population of hosts that's being attacked. We're seeing this invasion with ash dieback disease. Conditions can change, making the environment more favourable to pests and disease spread. Climate change is expanding the geographical range in which the pests can live. And remember that the susceptibility of plants will be increased when they're stressed and physiologically unhealthy. I mentioned the need for resilience. To protect our industry and our natural environments, we need to build resilience into our businesses and landscapes. This resilience will be made up of many components. These components will include planting of resistant crops and varieties, diversifying businesses to reduce dependence on single products, using biosecurity and hygiene routines consistently, having innovative businesses that can respond to difficult situations when they arise, maintaining soil health, which is so important to the well-being of the plant, maintaining and improving pollinator health, protecting biodiversity and balanced ecosystems, taking action to reduce climate change, and maintaining worldwide crop genetic resources that can be used for further plant breeding and making those resources available across nations. We need to use robust research and evidence collection, and perhaps most importantly, the experience of growers and ecologists to make sure we are resilient. We will need to manage resilience at a nursery level, at a national level, and through international action and coordination. So there is much to do and much to learn. But if we continue to learn and adapt, there is much to be confident about in our industry. I do hope that you enjoy the conference and that we're all able to produce healthy plants in a healthy environment. Thank you.